things are gonna go wrong that you are not going to have control over. Oh, you're getting old, you're getting weak, you're getting this, you're getting that. No, I don't accept that shit, it's not happening. Like, no, we're not doing that. And if you have a hard time doing that, your world is gonna be very difficult to deal with. Chesty Puller is the most iconic US Marine of all time. The Marine Corps has a mascot, bulldog, and they've had one for, 80 years. And every time they get a new dog, the dog's name is Chesty. That's the dog's name. When you're in Marine Corps boot camp, when you go to bed at night, you sing "Good Night, Chesty." 5 Navy Crosses. Heroic efforts in the Pacific campaigns, heroic efforts at the Chosin Reservoir. I hope you've heard of that in Korea. Like, the iconic Marine of all time. So Chesty Puller, actually, he gave the best speech I've ever heard. He gave this speech. It was at the Marine Corps Ball in Quantico, Virginia. And they loved this guy so much. The crowd, our guest speaker tonight is Chesty Puller. And the crowd of Marines goes absolutely freaking nuts. They go mad. And Chesty Puller walks out on stage in his dress uniform, and he gets to the microphone. And the crowd finally settles down. They settle down. And he goes up to the microphone and he says, "Marines." And the crowd goes freaking ape shit. And he walks off the stage. So that's Chesty Puller. And Chesty Puller, in between all this war fighting, Chesty Puller has a kid, has a son, Lewis Puller Jr. And Lewis Puller Jr. is born. And look, genetics are a weird thing, right? You don't always get you get weird mixes of genetics. If you look at my kids, you'll be like, oh yeah, that one's this and that one's that, and this one's a little in between, and that happens, right? Well, Lewis Puller Jr., when you see a picture of Chesty Puller, you're like, oh yeah, that must be Chesty Puller. That guy looks like a badass Marine. Well, Lewis Puller Jr. didn't get those genes. And he kind of looks like maybe, by the time, he's a little kid, he looks like a scrawny little kid. And then by the time he's going to college, he looks like probably he's a librarian, maybe an accountant. Thick glasses, very cerebral looking. Okay, cool. So he's like, what am I gonna do with my life? He majors in English, actually. So he's like majoring in English, but what do you do with an English degree? I don't know. He not really sure what to do. And he loved his dad. His dad was a great dad when he was around. So he's like, you know what? We're joining the Marine Corps. Cool. Well, it's hard for him to get in the Marine Corps because he's got bad vision. And so his dad is like, his dad's Chesty Puller. And, his dad makes a couple calls and gets in the Marine Corps. Gets in the Marine Corps, he gets a waiver for his glasses, and he goes through officer candidate school, goes to the basic school, gets commissioned as an infantry officer, and it's 1968. He goes to, I think, 14 days of leave, and then goes to Vietnam. Gets to Vietnam, and he's a platoon commander. Shows up in Vietnam, he's a platoon commander. And he's there, and they're on this cycle, like amount of time in this one area, amount of time in this other area, amount of time in this other area, and on this cycle. And about 3 months into it, they conduct a big operation. Big operation gets conducted, and there's a firefight happens with his platoon, and he goes running back to tell his company commander what's going on. While he's running back, he steps on a booby trap. Loses both legs basically at the hip. Like, his hands are all jacked up. His bowels are basically blown out of his body. And he has no chance of living. But they Casevac him, they get him out of there, and they keep him alive. They get him back to Bethesda. He's in a medically induced coma. When he wakes up from his medically induced coma in a hospital bed with no legs, shattered hands, missing fingers, And his dad is there. And his dad can't speak because he's weeping, and he leaves. So, he goes to rehab. And it's really hard. He tries to get the prosthetics. They don't work. His legs are too messed up. And it's like awful when you see the old prosthetics that guys had. We see our guys with prosthetics now like Rob Jones. They're made of carbon fiber and aluminum, and they got digital freaking computers in them. Well, this is like back in the day when it was leather and wood, right? But his legs are so gone that it doesn't really matter because they just don't work. So he's going to be wheelchair bound. And by the way, I forgot to tell you that his wife, he got married before he left, and his wife is now pregnant, and she has the baby. So now he's got a kid, and the way she tells him, I'm taking care of 2 babies now. This baby that we have that was just born, and you. He kind of gets his act together, but man, he's hurting. Eventually, Louis Puller Jr. gets out, and he's struggling. He's struggling awfully. He's thinking about it every day. He goes to law school. He gets his degree in law, but he's drinking a lot. He's drinking all the time. He's an alcoholic, but he's going to law school. And finally, he goes in and out. His wife's like begging him to stop drinking. He eventually runs for office in Virginia. He runs for office as a Democrat against a Republican. The Republican is pro-war in Vietnam. He's anti-war in Vietnam. The Republican skipped the draft and did not serve. And Louis Puller Jr. loses to him in the election. And he actually loses after his campaign managers beg him to do negative ads about his opponent. Tell everyone that he dodged the draft. He's a coward. You need to say that to the people. And he refuses to go negative on the ads, and he loses. And he spirals out of control, alcohol. And his wife finally gets him into rehab, and he starts to square his life away. And he writes a book called Fortunate Son, and that's where I'm getting all this information from. He writes this book called Fortunate Son. And the book is amazing. And as the arc of the book unfolds, he becomes very engaged in the building of the Vietnam Memorial Wall, in the design, in the placement, in the production of it. And it starts to like heal him. And the climax of the book is he finally gets to a point where the day of putting in the Vietnam Memorial Wall, which, as you know, is a very dramatic and moving piece of architecture, and he's at the ceremony, and he's recognized at the ceremony. And after the ceremony, there's a bar where the Marines are going to go, and he goes into the bar where this celebration of the monument is taking place, and his brother Marines are saying to him, "Welcome home." And he finally feels like he has accepted his past and he's ready to move forward. And that's the end of the book. But that's not the end of the story. The book comes out, it's a bestseller. He wins a Pulitzer Prize for the book because it's incredible. He falls out of his wheelchair. He gets hurt. He gets taken to the hospital, and they give him, by the way, he had quit drinking when he was in rehab. They give him painkillers. He gets addicted to painkillers. He gets back drinking again. And in 1993, he takes out his service 45 and shoots himself, kills himself. And when I got done doing the podcast with Jim Searlesley, we didn't talk about any of that on the podcast. We get done, and I said, you know, sir, like, how did you, like, do all this? And he looks at me and he says, have you ever heard of a guy named Louis Puller Jr.? And I said, yes, sir. I did a podcast about his dad. I did a podcast. I talked about his book, Fortunate Son. And yes, I know exactly who he is. He goes, I was in rehab with Louis. And there was something that was wrong. When I got wounded, I accepted 100% that this is what has happened, and I need to carry on with my life and do the best I can. And I accepted that. And Louis, he accepted it about 98%. And there was 2% of him that always thought, why me? Why did this happen to me? Woe is me. And it ended up killing him. And, you know, I think that's the lesson that I'll never forget is like, you know, we talk about extreme ownership all the time, but like things are going to go wrong that you are not going to have control over. And if you don't accept those things and like, okay, now what am I going to do? If you don't do that, that little 2% in the back of your mind, it'll drag you down. It will absolutely drag you down. And, you know, it's interesting because I've been talking with Echo lately, and Echo, like, I said something to Echo, not on the podcast, but just like in life. And he came back like 3 days later and he's like, dude, this is a big deal. And I'm like, what? He's like, what you told me the other day. And I was like, what? He's like, there's things you just don't accept. And I'm like, oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, I do not accept this shit happening to me. Like this thing over here or that thing over here. Oh, you're getting old, you're getting weak, you're getting this, you're getting that. No, I don't accept that shit. It's not happening. We're not doing that. Like, no, we're not doing that. And it's a really powerful tool. You know, it's like a really powerful tool to be like, yeah, no, we're not gonna let that happen. I don't accept that. I'm not accepting that. It's not a thing that we're doing around here. So there's that side of it, but the other side is like radical acceptance of like the reality of the situation. And if you have a hard time doing that, your world is going to be very difficult to deal with.